Hey guys, it's Ruben. I'm here with Paige, and we're going to get into a fun video jam session today. And one of the things that we're going to talk about with Paige, who is an absolute expert in automation and funnels, she kind of knows the MarTech ecosystem like very few people that I know. So very impressed with your skill set, Paige, and I'd love to kind of get your feedback and get into a couple of things, and then also learn some things that I think you're really an expert at, specific to kind of coaching. We're talking about self-confidence. We're talking about paths to profiting. We're talking about authenticity, and then I think most importantly right now is the art of the pivot, to use I think Guy Kawasaki's term. So I'd love to get into some of those things with you. I'd love to first start with your take on kind of where we're at and how we can adapt to our new world.
Well, gosh, we are in a very unprecedented time. I don't think I ever could imagine being here and being so quarantined. And I'm really praying for the safety of the planet
Good.
globally. And I also see that, we can either step into fear on fear on fear that creates more fear, or we can find some opportunities and some silver lining in this. So obviously for software companies, it's a great time to serve more customers. And for agency owners like myself and coaches, it's a great time to step up and show up online. And so, yeah, I feel like we're in a very strange time, but I try and gravitate always towards what's the opportunity here to serve.
Yeah, I mean, I almost see this new subset called the pivot agency,
Yeah,
and this is the agency that's going to help you to figure out how to adapt to that new world that we're talking about. So, speaking of pivoting, Dubb did not pivot during this process, but we did package ourselves, and we did kind of connect a couple of dots, and we sort of realized that what the world really needs right now is remote tools, platforms, digital tech to be able to communicate, collaborate, do all the things that we normally have done. But now, of course, in the virtual space, since a lot of us are at home. So, this, I'll just kind of quickly share my screen here. And this is just a quick sort of take on Dubb for remote work. We call it Dubb Remote. And this, as many people might know now already, that we launched this on Product Hunt, and it was a lot of fun. It was a whole thing, and there was a video that I was recording where Donnie, my son, came into the frame, and then I just made a thing out of it because this
so
is
cute.
this yeah, this is the new world that we live in. We can't hide stuff like this anymore. When our kids jump up on frame, they're in the story now. We're not like that dude that was on the news, that video that went viral where he's like so embarrassed and he's like swatting his kids away and his wife comes running in the door. Those days are over. This is the new world where if your kids or your pets or your cats or your dogs or your bird or your lizard or your snake shows up on the frame, guess what? They're part of the story, and make them part of the
Right.
story and have fun with them because we're all
Yeah.
dealing with it. So,
Yeah.
just a little bit of a take there. But anyways, there's some cool stuff on this page. One of the things that actually we did not launch was forms, and we didn't make it in time. So that was just cool, and that happens. But we did launch it very quietly a little bit afterwards. And these are called Dubb native forms. And just to give a little bit of context, we used to have external forms available on Dubb. So what that means really is within the calls to action, a user could go create a call to action and basically take a URL of an external form. And that could be from an automation system. It could be from any place that they can collect a form from. So that form now is called external form. And then our native forms is just called a regular form. So we did a little bit of a nomenclature title change there. But this is kind of what it looks like here. So I'm just going to take this existing form that I have called the Shannon Cat Party, just to stay on brand here. So in this form, what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to add the name of the form title. This is a public field. The description, this is going to appear on top of the form. Some button text like submit or watch video or register for webinar, watch masterclass, anything that's relevant to that action. So let's just say watch masterclass. I know you do those. And then users can select any of the fields that are existing now within Dubb Contacts. So if you guys remember, of course, Dubb has a very robust contacts engine, and that's now called Connections. And maybe it's a little nod to our podcast, The Connection Loop. Maybe not. We just didn't want to have this redundant contacts and contacts. So side note there. But now, of course, you can add fields, any of the fields that are existing within Dubb contacts to this form. Side note, we do have custom fields that are coming very soon. So those are going to include text input, drop down, paragraph input, multi-select, and a radio button. So those are just going to allow us to be a little bit more granular in those forms.
Nice.
And then of course you can't have a form unless you have a complete action, which means where does the person go when the form is filled out? Okay, so you can forward to a URL, perhaps a website, YouTube video, a Dubb video, whatever's relevant for you, or you can just display a simple custom message. So cats rule, see you there, cat emoji. And then of course, the beauty and the magnificence of forms and really marketing automation is the tag, because the tag is what generates everything, and that's what makes everything power up. So why are we going to use these forms? Where is this information going to go? Okay, this information gets submitted to the contacts engine, right? So now you have all of these fields that get saved to the specific contact within your Dubb contacts, right? But what it also can do is that it can trigger automation. So I know, Paige, you're a fan of automation. And dare I call you lazy? Because I know I love automation because I'm a little bit lazy. So, so here we have an example of a workflow. And of course, this is triggered by tags. So just to give a little bit of context here, if you drive someone to fill out a Dubb native form, and that exists, of course, on a video page, which I'll just show in a moment, that can trigger an automated workflow so that a sequence can get triggered. And a sequence, of course, means an email drip sequence. It can have intelligent tags or different smart ways for us to both organize information and then also distribute information out to people. So plainly put, I'll show very quickly what that looks like. But firstly, before I do that, Paige, I'd love to get some kind of questions from you or comments or anything that you have. I know that you've probably made 100 forms in your life per month for the last 10 years, but I'd love to get your take on this before I jump into the actual demo.
Nice. Well, first of all, this is great. So kudos. I love the new feature. So the other thing I really like right now is I've been really talking about and harping on simplicity. And so I actually remember when I was embedding job forms into my landing pages, using an embed code. Every time we have too many softwares, it makes our minds scatter in all of these different ways. So way to go. I think it's awesome that we don't have to go have additional software we're paying for just for the forms. And I think it's awesome that you can kick off the automations. One question I have for you, there's a lot of conversation about email deliverability, is how are you guys doing that in terms of sending automated emails through Dubb, through the Dubb servers? How does that work?
Yeah, okay, so there's a couple of things, and this is sort of an iteration and kind of a learning in progress. So one of the things that we realized to have a one-on-one chat system is that we have to have, each person has to have an account. You can't chat with a person in a private situation unless each person has an account. This is not like a comments engine on WordPress where you leave a comment and you can enter any name and then poof, you're gone. And that's kind of a asynchronous comment that just gets landed somewhere, and then it's not like a continued dialogue. So we realized that we needed to have each person get an account. So when a person goes, and I'm going to actually demo this in just a minute here. When a person goes and wants to send a chat, like a private chat to, let's just say you, they have to initiate a basic Dubb account. Okay, a basic Dubb account simply means that they have to enter their email address. And then from there, we have a switch which we added, which allows them to select if they want to get a follow-up email to continue and complete their Dubb account. They can opt out of that. It's totally up to them. We added recently some language on it that makes it very abundantly clear that when someone signs up to that kind of basic Dubb account, that they're conducting and completing this account so that they can have that messaging take place. It's completely opt-in or opt-out for them. If they don't want to do it, they simply deselect it or don't fill out the form, and they can communicate with you in a different way. The Dubb user also has the power to shut that feature off. So on the landing page itself, there's a switch that says, it's basically shut video chat off, or it's an on switch, but you just turn it off essentially. So if you turn that off, then the chat widget is not going to appear. So one of the things that we we're thinking about and working on is how do we continue the conversation after that, after one or two of those people have left that page. The last thing that we want to have is a conversation that's incomplete. We want to have a conversation that gets carried on so that people can continue the dialogue. And that's really the essence of conversational marketing. We see that in comments and we see that in messaging, that ongoing conversation after they've consumed the content. Now it's about the conversation. So one of the things that we have been trying to figure out and really optimizing is how do we, in a way that does not disrupt or not provide friction, how do we do it in such a way that we don't feel like our Dubb users are being encroached upon, and we're trying to market to these users, but at the same time, we do facilitate the process of them creating that account and then chatting. So what we kind of landed on is this one opt-in reminder email where if they want to get the completion link, they can get that. And I'm talking about the end user here. But once again, if they don't want to get it, they can simply opt out. After that, there's no additional marketing happening. We don't sell to them. That's not what we're interested in doing. The purpose of this is, once again, just to drive conversations. So that's kind of my take on that. And I'd love to give a quick demo of what that form looks like if you'd like to jump over.
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so here we have a video this is actually embedded from YouTube. So I think by now most people know that we have the YouTube integration.
Yes.
Of course, we have Shannon's cat. In fact, he has 4 cats. He is fostering 4 little kitties.
Wow.
So shout out to Shannon for doing that at this time. And then here we have our lovely form. So in this form, the email is the only required field. Now that's an optional thing. You can make any of these fields required. And then once this form gets filled out, and then the user clicks meow in this case, with 3 exclamation points, then they see the confirmation message. And then of course that automated workflow can trigger.
So is the automated workflow triggering standard emails, or is the automated workflow triggering chats?
Great question, actually. This has nothing to do with chat right here. This form has everything to do with your automated workflows. So I hope I didn't confuse these two things in what I was saying before. I want to kind of reiterate a couple of things. So number one, forms. The purpose of a form. This is a closed, controlled environment where your end user, your viewer of your video, can fill out this form, and the only thing that happens to this information is that it gets entered into your Dubb contacts database. It does not get entered. We don't see it. There's nothing that we don't send any emails to these people. It's completely your information. You own this information. Okay. Now, once that information gets sent to your contacts database within Dubb, then you can have an automated workflow that automatically triggers, for example, an email drip sequence. So that's how this form works. And then I'll jump to the next piece, which is any questions on that before I jump?
No, that's great. Are the emails coming from Dubb, or are they coming from me?
So this would be your end users. So you are promoting this URL, this Dubb video. You're sending this via Gmail or LinkedIn, or you're doing a broadcast email, and then you're asking people, end users, viewers of your Dubb video, to fill out this form if they want to attend something, watch a masterclass, get an ebook, whatever it is that you want to trigger. And then that information goes then into your Dubb contacts database, which can then trigger an automated workflow.
Got it. And when they get an email from you, do they get an email from Paige, or do they get an email from Dubb?
That's completely on you. That is what you create. That is your automated workflow. So whatever you decide to create within this workflow, you own that. That's your contact. We never send any. There's no reason for us to send any information here because it's a form that you generated and you own that data. You own that contact.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then just to clarify the video chat option here. So here's what that looks like. So right now I can just give kind of a visual demo here. If I look at this on a incognito window, what that's going to do is that's going to emulate the experience of an end user that's watching a video like this. And then in this video here, of course, we have, if I scroll down, we have the video chat. I have autoplay on this video, so it's a little aggressive. So use that with caution. So here I am kind of emulating a third party looking at this. And then what this is going to do here is that this is a very, very updated form. So we're very open to feedback on this actually. But this is a little modal that is going to allow them to continue on to create that Dubb messaging account. And then once again, if they want to opt out from receiving that confirmation email, they can just click that check and then they don't get any email from us whatsoever. So this is once again a feature that you can turn on or off on any of your video pages. This is completely owned by you. Once again, the only email that the end user will get on this is that confirmation email so that they can continue their account. And then of course they can opt out of that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of a skinny on forms, native forms, and then also a little bit of information on our chat. So let's get into some other stuff right now, which I know that you're very passionate about and also an expert at, which is number one is this idea of building self-confidence. You know, the other day I was on a my kid is learning how to ride a bike. Okay, and I was holding the handlebars for him, and he's there except for the launch, and then I said, hey, why don't you just go on that street, you know? And he said no, and he refused to tell me why he didn't want to do it. And it took a couple of times for me to ask him why, but he finally said, listen, I don't want to do that because I don't like that the cars are all parked on both sides of the street because, you know, people are parking in front of their homes. And what I realized at that moment was that it wasn't like he was being stubborn or it wasn't like he was being ignorant. He had a specific fear and he lacked confidence. You know, so one of the things that I'm trying to do is to get him to understand when he feels a lack of confidence or when he feels fear, because that's something that I have constantly tried to do in my life, to understand when I feel an insecurity or feel a lack of confidence, feel fear, and then kind of address that. So I'd love to get your take on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel like there's a fine line between understanding if your fear is coming from a place of intuition, your actual inner being like, don't go there, don't go to that spot, or if it's actually fear that's just preventing you and keeping you small and it's based on your fear of failure. And so an example for me in my life when I talk to entrepreneurs and I'm talking to them about, hey, what do you really want? And when someone says, this is what I really want, this is my purpose, and then they tell me their fears, I know that that's all ego and that it's not their intuition and that all it's doing is keeping them small. So specifically there, when people tell me that, you know, I want X, Y, Z, but I don't know if I can have it, or I'm too afraid to have it, or what if, or I've spent my whole life not being able to have that thing. And that's the kind of fear that I want to help people overcome. So when it comes to confidence, to build the confidence, it's so backwards from what people think. Most people think that they need to like sit and ruminate on it. And while I do believe wholeheartedly in journaling, and I do believe in like, you know, meditating and coming from within and being like, okay, this is what I want to do, I really don't think we actually get confidence until we take action, until we're willing to, like your son is doing, actually pedal the bike, right? And so when he decides to go down that street, if he's like, okay, I'm ready, I want it, I want to take that next leap, he'll build the confidence by pedaling down it, not by staring at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My friend, Tony Blauer, he talks about this idea of knowing fear, not no fear, but know fear, K-N-O-W fear.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that it's okay to feel fear. And this idea of machismo and alpha and ego and seventh chakra of like, I never feel fear and I never ask for instructions and I never ask for directions and no one can ever scare me. That's silly. And I like how you said it. It keeps you small. It keeps you small.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what are you noticing that people are dealing with in terms of fear and self-confidence right now in this time? And how can they sort of overcome that?
Well, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about visibility. So when I talk to them about, hey, what do you want? And they'll tell me, for instance, I I want to sell a personal development coaching program. And I'll say, that sounds amazing. Sounds wonderful. You know, where'd that come from? How did that come within you? And then they'll give me the whole story and they'll be lit up and be excited about it. And I say, what if I asked you to go get on Facebook Live every day for 30 days to tell people what you're working on and what you have to offer? What does that bring up in you? And they're like, what one woman said to me, sweaty armpits. I was like, yeah, that's genuine. And so, I mean, what I told her was, I said, you know, everything we want is just on the other side of that fear. Yeah. And if we start with our purpose and we know that it's the you know, painting the mural or it's the launching the coaching program, if we start with the purpose, it's not that we're not going to feel the fear. It's that we just need to set the plan in motion, take the action each and every day. Right. And then the confidence will come. And when the confidence comes, we can sort of like, it becomes easier to push aside the fear. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I love the way that you articulated that everything we want is on the opposite side of fear.
Yeah. If
we just take a minute to understand what that means and say, that's the only block. And guess what? Fear is something that we create ourselves. So we are our only obstacle. There's nothing that's external from a third party that's in front of us. I mean, there is obstacles and there is friction, and you know, the more that something pushes against you, the more you have to push towards it. So you develop that muscle. But I love the way you articulate it. Everything that you want is on the opposite side of fear. That's important.
Yeah, it is. I think because especially in the spiritual realm, I think people tend to think that the thing that you want or your purpose or your soul's path, that it should be easy. And it's like, no, that's where the universe is going to go. Do you really want it? Let's do this. And that's where we start to, it's all from ourselves, where we're like, can we possibly have it? The other thing too, I think that people tend to do, and you might put it in the category of self-sabotage, but there are generations upon generations that have taught us that in order to have what we want, we have to work really, really hard. There's the hustle and grind mentality. There's the, you know, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of mentality. And in reality, like, slowing down that story, getting that out of our mind and replacing it with, hey, it won't always be frictionless, and I may have fear and I'm going to do it anyway, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be crazy hard. So that's like my mantra right now, is make it like, keep it simple, show up, and it will work out.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea of doing a Facebook video live, which is what you mentioned, you know, is it hard work? Yeah, it is hard work, I guess. You have to get into a mode, you have to have content, you have to get into that cadence of doing it every day. It's like working out. But guess what's a lot harder than going live on Facebook is having 20 calls a day, 20 video calls a day with someone a day for a month. And what's cool about Facebook and doing any type of streaming or video or content like that is that you're doing one and you're having some sort of a content social multiplier on that based on your viewability. And the more time you put into it, the more visibility you get. So that's the true definition of not working hard. That's the true definition of maximizing your productivity, maximizing your output, and minimizing your input. That's what we all should be doing. You know, there are some people that could be in a jacuzzi for a year, you know, and besides the fact that they'll get really, really pruny fingers and skin, they can still make a ton of money, you know? And, you know, speaking of which, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you heard about this, but I read something about this guy, Grant Cardone. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know him, but he just let go so he just 0.8x'd his work staff. Yeah, so it's like a headline, and it's not a headline, but I saw it, and I forget where I saw it. I saw it on some post, and he just basically let go 80% of his work staff. And wow. I was really trying to understand why that happened. You know, what caused that? What was the issue for that? Was it because he's pivoting? I mean, he's a public speaker, and public speaking is dead. You know, he's got courses, and those courses and video content, masterclasses, a lot of that stuff you can do from home. So, but, you know, I was just trying to understand, was it fear that he was feeling, or was it some of the things that you and I have been talking about? Because, you know, fortunes are made in recessions. I've said that like 100 times in the last 3 days.
Mm.
So it's like I'm sick of myself saying that, but it's the truth. Fortunes are made in recessions. And there are some companies that I think have the mentality that you have, which is you started off this conversation with excitement and optimism and just this desire and lack of fear to like pivot yourself. And I
Yeah.
applaud you for that. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can speak directly to what he's doing to lay off employees, but I've heard across the board, I've heard of companies that are letting off hundreds of people at a time. And it's, that's really tough. That's really tough for a lot of people that are going to need to figure out how to reinvent themselves. And so actually, that's why being visible on camera, recording videos matters. Because if you're trying to, let's say you're trying to get back into the job market, if you're not willing to show your face on camera, you're going to lose the job to somebody who's willing to shoot a video on their iPhone and send it to a recruiter. So I can't speak specifically to that, but I will speak to the pivot, because I think that we kind of talked a little bit about are we tuned into the news, or are we like news deprived right now? Are we in the fear, or are we like totally shutting that out? And I kind of told you I'm like doing a little bit, just enough to be like kind of educated, but not being stuck in the fear of the media. And what I will say is that if we can just get a little bit of information that sparked something that shows where the opportunity is, there is opportunity out of this. So actually, my agency and our education company, we were focused across all industries. And we've pivoted as a result of coronavirus because of the, I think it's 21,000 was the last number I saw of schools that have been canceled. And it was like 15 million US students. 22 countries had been reported by the United Nations as shutting down schools. So I realized that there was a huge need in the marketplace for educators and course creators and coaches. So we've done I don't want to call it a pivot to our services, but we've like jumped up. It's like this has sparked the fire where we could go and want to like go in an underground bunker and like quarantine and not show our face. This has actually sparked a lot of momentum for us, and a lot of desire to really want to help people, because we've got professors countrywide that are experts. We've got people that have been struggling with the tech that could use our help setting up their technology platforms. And all of this really is just a testament to companies like yours, Ruben, that allow people to get their message out there super fast and really easy and effectively. So yeah, so we're seeing that pivot. We're not laying anybody off, but we're definitely feeling we're feeling the urgency in wanting to help people that are tapping into their true purpose now. Even people that are making pivots that are like, show me how to take my offline stuff and put it online. We're there for it. We're ready for it.
That's awesome. That makes total sense. I think that's a really great alignment. You know, the essence of a pivot is if you have, you know, two feet on the ground, the pivot is just moving 1 foot. You know,
Yeah.
I think what you've done really well is that you've provided information, you've provided consultation, you've provided expertise on, you know, taking content, creating technology, developing systems to distribute it and then attract people, lead generation, conversions, sales, you know, all of these things I think what you're an expert at. And I think that there's a specific sector right now that really needs that, you know, and I think that your response to that is really intelligent. So shout out to you.
Yeah.
And I, you know, please let me know if there's any way that Dubb could be used within this sector. You know, I'm psyched about that. You know, we've gotten requests randomly, you know, for really responding to people within education. And we don't really know what to do with it exactly. So I'd love at some point to get a little bit of feedback from you. I know that there's some tech out there like Google Classroom, and I think now a lot of folks are using maybe Zoom and some other ones. So I'd love to get your take on that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we round this out, I do want to mention that we are launching a program tomorrow called the Link in Bio Workshop. And that
Yes.
is to help you if you are interested in setting up your Dubb in a way that helps you convert leads and sales from your social media content. So if you're the kind of person who either is feeling the fire to start showing up all of a sudden, or you've already been posting Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook content, but you're wondering what to do with it, how to actually make offers and send them to a landing page that collects their information, like Ruben was just showing us with the forms, then come check out our workshop. Yeah, so just search for our Empowered Boss Facebook group. It's called the Empowered Boss Network. You can also go to empoweredboss.com, and we've got the workshop dropping tomorrow, so we're pretty excited about it. It's called the Link in Bio Workshop, so you can get up your new link in bio and actually start converting leads from your social media content. So, yep, yeah.
Cool. So check out that URL, Empowered Boss Network. Is that what you said?
That's the name of the Facebook group.
That's
you got the
Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So,
yep.
very cool. Awesome. And I just wanted to really quickly say that, I think that it's so important what you're doing. And I think that, the way in which you're doing it, I think is really the correct way to do it, because technology is just technology. And without real coaching and real information and guidance on how to take technology and then tap into ourselves and our compassion, our value, and our storytelling, without that connection, it doesn't really happen. Nothing is valuable in that context. So it's really those two things that I think are critical. And Dubb as an ecosystem, as a technology, is constantly looking for ways to connect ourselves and to align ourselves with people like you. So thank you so much for supporting the Dubb community, giving us feedback on the Dubb technology and product as a whole, and then just overall just being an evangelist for the whole movement that we're in. So thank you, Paige. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So if folks want to grab and join up on the Dubb affiliate network, that's the thing that we always recommend. Paige, highly encourage you to check that out. If you have any information or specific questions, comments, let me know about that. We'd love to empower you on that. So thanks again, Paige. Appreciate the time.